I don't know why. This happens every once in a while. I get this stupid thing from Facebook shows up. And I can't get rid of it. So give me a second here. What the heck? What the heck is going on here? I don't know why. I have a chat box stuck in the middle of my a Facebook chat box stuck in the middle of my window. Hang on a second, folks. Let me see if I can't do something different here. No, it's not getting rid of it. I don't want to start this all over again. Give me a second. There, I got it. Whatever this stupid chat thing is gone. Okay. And then there's just a messenger chat icon up in the corner. I'm telling you folks, what's going on is nothing is working. Nothing. My printer would not work, so I had to email half of my paperwork to my accountant and mail the other half because I couldn't print it all off. Then today I started up my computer and my printer worked. Just started working all by itself. So Howie just asked me if I would print off a return label because he ordered something and then he tried to cancel it like I did with my patches, and it came anyway. And now of course, my printer won't work again. I am in the middle of absolute chaos. So this is why I'm taking the next couple of weeks off. I have to get my house in order. I have to get my rooms in order, and I have to get my new computer and my new computer and my editing software. So this is why everything has to grind to a friggin' halt. Well, everything for you guys on the internet has to grind for a halt while I get things back in order. So anyway, here we go. Last 3 chapters. Chapter 30, Sunset on the Hill. One Sunday, Laura did not go driving, for it was Mary's last day at home. She was going back to college the next day. The weather was so very warm at breakfast, Ma said she believed she would not go to church. Carrie and Grace would stay at home with her, while Laura and Mary went with Pa in the wagon. Pa was waiting for them when they came from the bedroom ready to go. Laura wore again her sprigged pale pink lawn dress and her new hat with the ostrich tips now sewed on tightly. Mary's dress was a blue lawn with small white flowers scattered over it. Her hat was a white straw sailor with a blue ribbon band. Beneath its brim, in the back of her hair, was a great mass of twisted gold, and golden bangs curled richly across her forehead. I guess her mother didn't have a problem with her cutting her bangs. Above her eyes, as blue as her ribbons. Pa looked at them for a moment. His eyes shone, and his voice was proud as he exclaimed in mock dismay, "Jerusalem crickets, Caroline! I'm not spruce enough to bow 2 such fine-looking young ladies to church." He looked nice, too, in his black suit with the black velvet collar on the coat, his white shirt and dark blue tie. The wagon was waiting. Before he dressed, Pa had combed and brushed the 2 farm horses and spread a clean horse blanket on the wagon seat. The team drowsed while Pa carefully helped Mary up over the wheel and then gave his hand to Laura. Over their laps, they spread the light dust robe, and carefully Laura tucked its edge well around her full-gathered, tucked lawn skirt. Then in the sunshine and hot wind, slowly they rode to church. It was so crowded that morning that they could not find 3 empty places together. So Pa went forward to sit with the graybeards in the Amen corner, while Laura and Mary sat side by side near the middle of the church. Reverend Brown was preaching earnestly, and Laura was wishing that with so much sincerity he could say something interesting when she saw a small plump kitten straying up the aisle. Idly, she watched it pounce and play until it wandered onto the platform and stood arching its back and rubbing against the side of the pulpit. As its round kitten eyes looked at the congregation, Laura believed she could hear its purring. Then, at her side in the aisle, a small dog passed, trotting briskly. It was a little black and tan with slender legs and a perky short tail, and its quick businesslike trot sounds like a Jack Russell. Natural to it. It was not seeking anyone, nor going anywhere, but merely sightseeing in the church until it spied the kitten. For an instant, the little dog stiffened. Then, with a firecracker explosion of shrill yaps, it leaped. The kitten's back rose in an arch, its tail swelled, and in a flash it vanished from Laura's view. The strange thing was, it seemed to vanish utterly. There was no chase, and the little dog was silent. Reverend Brown went on preaching. Laura barely had time to wonder when she felt a slight swaying of her hoops, and looking down, she saw the tip of the kitten's tail slide out from beneath the pink lawn ruffle. What you doing, baby? Oh, okay. The kitten had taken refuge under her hoops, and now it began climbing up inside them, clutching and clawing its way from wire to wire. Laura felt an impulse to laugh, but she controlled it and sat solemn as a judge. Then the little dog passed anxiously, peering and sniffing in search of the kitten, and a sudden vision of what would happen if he found it made Laura shake from head to foot with suppressed laughter. She could feel her ribs swelling against her corsets and her cheeks puffing out and her throat choking. Mary did not know what amused Laura, but she felt that she was laughing and pushed her elbow against Laura's side, whispering, "Behave yourself." What the hell is that? Laura shook all the harder and felt her face growing purple. Her hoops kept swaying under her skirts as the kitten cautiously crept down them again. Its little whiskered nose and eyes peeped from beneath the pink ruffle. Then, seeing nothing of the dog, it popped out suddenly and scampered down the aisle toward the door. Laura listened, but she heard no yapping, so she knew that the kitten had escaped. On the way home, Mary said, "Laura, I'm surprised at you. Will you never learn to behave yourself properly in church?" Laura laughed until she cried, while Mary still sat disapproving, and Pa wanted to know what happened. "No, Mary, I never will," Laura said at last, wiping her eyes. "You might as well give me up as a hopeless case." Then she told them, and even Mary had to smile. Sunday dinner and the afternoon passed quietly in family talk, and when the sun was sinking, Mary and Laura took their last walk together to the top of the low hill to see the sunset. "I never see things so well with anyone else," Mary said. "And when I come again, you will not be here." "No, but you will come to see me where I am," Laura answered. "There will be 2 homes for you to visit." "But these sunsets," Mary began, and Laura interrupted. "The sun will set on Almanzo's farm too, I hope," she teased. "There is no little hill there, but then there are 10 whole acres of little trees. We shall walk among them and you shall see them. There are cottonwoods, of course, but besides there are box elders and maples and willows. If they live, they will be a beautiful grove. Not just a windbreak around the house like Pa's, but a real little woods." "It will be strange to see these prairies wooded," Mary said. "Everything changes," said Laura. "Yes, They were silent a little while, and then Mary said, I wish I could be at your wedding. Don't you want to put it off till next June? Laura answered, No, Mary. I'm 18 now, and I've taught 3 terms of school. That's one more than Ma taught. I don't want to teach anymore. I want to be settled this winter in our own home. It will be just the ceremony anyway, she added. Pa could not afford a wedding, and I would not want the folks to go to any expense. Sorry, folks. When you come back next summer, my house will be all ready for you to come and visit me in. Laura, Mary said, I'm sorry about the organ. If I'd known. But I did want to see Blanche's home too, and it was near, and save Pa cost the money of the railroad journey, and I didn't realize that anything would ever change here at home. I felt it was always here to come back to. It is, Mary, it really is. And don't feel bad at all about the organ. Just remember what a nice time you had at Blanche's. I'm glad you went, truly I am, and so is Ma. She said so at the time. Did she? Mary's face lighted. Then Laura told her what Ma said of being glad she was having good times while she was young to remember. The sun was sinking now, and she told how its glory of crimson, gold flamed upon the sky and faded to rose and gray. Let's go back to the house now, Mary said. I can feel the change in the air. They stood a moment longer with hands clasped facing the west. Then slowly they walked down the slope past the stable. Time passes so quickly now, said Mary. Do you remember when winter was so long it seemed that summer would never come? And then in summertime, winter was so long ago we almost forgot what it was like? Yes. Whoops. I sat on my chair thing. Yes, and what good times we had when we were little, Laura answered. But maybe the times that are coming will be even better. You never know. Chapter 31, Wedding Plans. Can you guys hear okay? There's 4 chapters left. Wedding plans. As always, Mary's going away made an emptiness in the house. The next morning, Ma said briskly, We'll get at your sewing now, Laura. Busy hands are a great help to being cheerful. So Laura brought the muslins. Ma cut them out, and the airy sitting room filled with the sewing machine's hum and the busy cheerfulness of Ma and Laura's sewing together. I have an idea for the sheets, said Laura. I'm not going to sew those long seams down the middle with the over and over stitch by hand. If I lap the edges flat and sew the machine down the center, I do believe they'll be smooth enough and even more serviceable. It may well be, said Ma. Our grandmothers would turn in their graves, but after all, these are modern times. All the white sewing was quickly done on the machine. Laura brought out the dozens of yards of white thread lace she had knitted and crocheted, and like magic, the machine's flashing needle stitched the lace edgings to the open ends of the pillowcases, the throats and wrists of the high-necked, long-sleeve nightgowns, and the necks and armholes of the chemises and the leg bands of the drawers. Busily working with the white goods, Ma and Laura discussed Laura's dresses. My brown poplin open work dress is as good as new, Laura said, and my pink sprague lawn is new. What more do I need? You need a black dress, Ma answered quickly. I think every woman should have one nice black dress. We'd better go to town Saturday and get the goods. A cashmere, I think. Cashmere wears well, and it is always dressy for all but the hottest days of summer. When that dress is out of the way, you must get something pretty for your wedding. Oh, there will be plenty of time, Laura said. In the rush of summer work, Almanzo had little time to work on the house. He had taken Ma and Laura one Sunday to see its skeleton of studding standing by the piles of lumber back from the road behind the grove of little sapling trees. There were to be 3 rooms: a large room, a bedroom, and a pantry, with a lean-to over the back door besides. But after Laura had seen how these were planned, Almanzo did not take her to look at the house again. "Leave it to me," he said. "I'll get a roof over it before the snow flies." So they made their long Sunday drives to the Twin Lakes or Spirit Lake and beyond. On Monday morning, Ma unfolded the soft lengths of sooty black cashmere and, carefully fitting the newspaper pattern pieces to the goods so that none would be wasted, she cut confidently with the large shears. She cut out and pinned together all the skirt gores, the bodice pieces, and the sleeves. After dinner, the sewing machine was threaded with black and started. It was humming steadily late that afternoon, and Laura was basting the pieces of cambric lining to the cashmere pieces when she looked up from her work and saw Almanzo driving up to the house. Something had happened, she was sure. He would not come on a Tuesday. She hurried to the door and he said, "Come for a little drive. I want to talk to you." Putting on her sunbonnet, Laura went with him. "What is it?" she asked as Barnum and Skip trotted away. "Well, it's just this. Do you want a big wedding?" She looked at him in amazement that he should have come to ask her that when they would see each other next Sunday. "Why do you ask?" she inquired. "If you don't, would you be willing and could you be ready to be married the last of this week or the first of next?" He asked even more anxiously. "Don't answer till I tell you why. When I was back in Minnesota last winter, my sister Eliza started planning a big church wedding for us. I told her we didn't want it and to give up the idea. This morning I got a letter. She's not changed her mind. She's coming over here with my mother to take charge of our wedding." "Oh, no," Laura said. "You know Eliza," said Almanzo. "She's headstrong, and she's always bossy, but I couldn't handle that. I could handle this if it was only Eliza. My mother's different. She's more like your mother. You'll like her. But Eliza's got mother's heart set on having a big church wedding, and if they are here before we're married, I don't see how I can tell mother no. I don't want that kind of a wedding, and I can't afford what it would cost me. What do you think about it?" There was a little silence while Laura thought, and then she said quietly, "Pa can't afford to give me that kind of a wedding either. I would like a little longer to get my things made. If we're married so soon, I won't have a wedding dress." "Wear the one you have on. It's pretty," Almanzo urged. Laura could not help laughing. "This is a calico work dress. I couldn't possibly." And then she sobered. "But Ma and I are making one that I could wear." "Then will you say the end of the last of this week?" Laura was silent again, and then she summoned all her courage and said, "Almanzo, I must ask you something. Do you want me to promise to obey you?" Soberly he answered, "Of course not. I know it's in the wedding ceremony, but it's only something women say. I never knew one that did it, nor any decent man that wanted her to." "Well, I'm not going to say I will obey you," said Laura. "Are you for women's rights like Eliza?" Almanzo asked in surprise. "No," Laura replied. "I don't want to vote, but I cannot make a promise I will not keep. And Almanzo, even if I tried, I do not think I could obey anybody against my better judgment." "I'd never expect you to," he told her. "And there will be no difficulty about the ceremony because Reverend Brown does not believe in using the word obey." "He doesn't? Are you sure?" Laura had never been so surprised and so relieved all at once. "He feels very strongly about it," Almanzo said. "I've heard him arguing for hours and quoting Bible texts against St. Paul on that subject. You know he's a cousin of John Brown of Kansas and a good deal like him. Will it be all right then, the last of this week or the early next?" "Yes, if it's the only way we can escape a big wedding," said Laura. "I'll be ready the last of this week or the beginning of the first of next, whatever you say. If I can get the house finished, we'll say the last of this week. If not, it'll have to be next week. Let's say when the house is finished, we will just drive to Reverend Brown's and be married quietly without fuss. I'll take you home now, and I may have time to get in a few more licks on the house tonight. At home again, Laura hesitated to tell the plan. She felt that Ma would think the haste unseemly. Ma might say marry in haste, repent in leisure. Yet they were not really marrying in haste. They'd been going together for 3 years. That's how long Howie and I lived together before we got married, legally married. It was not until supper time that Laura found the courage to say she and Almanzo planned to be married so soon. We can't possibly get you a wedding dress made, Ma objected. We can finish the black cashmere and I'll wear that, Laura answered. I do not like to think of you being married in black, said Ma. You know what they say, marry in black, you'll wish yourself back. It will be new, and I'll wear my old sage green poke bonnet with the blue silk lining and borrow your little square gold pin with the strawberry in it. So I'll be wearing something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue, Laura said cheerfully. I don't suppose there's any truth in these old sayings, Ma consented. Pa said, I think it's a sensible thing to do. You and Almanzo show good judgment. But Ma was not wholly satisfied. Let Reverend Brown come here. You can be married at home, Laura. You can have a nice little wedding here. No, Ma. We couldn't have any kind of wedding and not wait to have Almanzo's mother here. Laura objected. Laura's right, and you think so yourself, Caroline, said Pa. Of course I do, said Ma. Well, you're getting 4 chapters tonight, folks. And then I'm going on a mental, emotional, and physical health break for a couple of weeks. Chapter 32, Haste to the Wedding. Carrie and Grace eagerly offered to do all the housework so that Ma and Laura could finish the cashmere, and every day that week they sewed as fast as they could. They made a tight-fitting basque pointed at the bottom, back and front, lined with black cambric lining and boned with whale bones on every seam. It had a high collar of the cashmere. The sleeves were lined too. They were long and plain and beautifully fitted, with a little fullness at the top but tight at the wrists. A shirring around each armhole in front made a graceful fullness over the breast and was taken up by darts below. Small round black buttons buttoned the basque straight down the front. The skirt just touched the floor all around. It fitted smoothly at the top but was gored to fullness at the bottom. It was lined throughout with the cambric dress lining and interlined with crinoline from the bottom to as high as Laura's shoes. The bottom of the skirt and the linings were turned under and the raw edges covered with dress braid, which Laura hemmed down by hand on both sides, so that no stitches showed on the right side. There was no drive that Sunday. Almanzo came by only for a moment in his work clothes to say he was breaking the Sabbath by working on the house. It would be finished, he said, by Wednesday so they could be married Thursday. He would come for Laura at 10 o'clock Thursday morning, for Reverend Brown was leaving town on the 11 o'clock train. Then you better come over with the wagon Wednesday, if you can make it, for Laura's things, Pa told him. Almanzo said he would, and so it was settled. With a smile to Laura, he quickly drove away. Tuesday morning, Pa drove to town, and at noon he came back bringing Laura a present of a new trunk. Better put your things in it today, he said. With Ma's help, Laura packed her trunk that afternoon. Her old rag doll Charlotte, with all her clothes carefully packed in a cardboard box, she put in the very bottom. Laura's winter clothes were laid in next. Then her sheets and pillowcases and towels, her new white clothes and calico dresses, her brown poplin. The pink lawn was carefully laid on top of that so it would not be crushed. In the hat box of the trunk's till, Laura put her new hat with the ostrich tips, and in the shallow till itself, she had her knitting and crochet needles and worsetted yarns. Carrie brought Laura's glass box from the whatnot, saying, I know you want this. Laura held the box in her hand, undecided. I hate to take this box away from Mary's. They shouldn't be separated, she mused. See, I've moved my box closer to Mary's, Carrie showed her. It doesn't look so lonesome. So Laura put her box carefully in the trunk of her till among the soft yarns where it would not be broken. She had more than one of those. She also had a I don't know. The trunk was packed and Laura shut down the lid. Then Ma spread a clean old sheet across the bed. You will want your quilt. Laura brought her dove-in-the-window quilt that she had hand-pieced as a little girl while Mary pieced a 9-patch. It had been kept carefully all the years since then. Ma laid it folded on the sheet, and upon it she placed 2 large plump pillows. I want you to have these, Laura, she said. You helped me save the feathers from geese that Pa shot on Silver Lake. These are as good as new, and I've been saving them for you. This red and white check tablecloth is like those I've always had. I thought it might make the new home more homelike if you saw it on your table, said Ma, and laid the tablecloth still in its paper wrapping on the pillow. She drew the corners of the old sheet together all over and tied them firmly. There, that'll keep the dust out, she said. Almanzo came the next morning with Barnum and Skip hitched to the wagon. He and Pa loaded the trunk and the pillow bundle into it, and then Pa said, Wait a minute, don't hurry, I'll be back. And he went to the house, and for a moment or two all the others stood by the wagon talking and waiting for Pa to come from the door. Then he came around the corner of the house leading Laura's favorite young cow. She was fawn-colored all over and gentle. Quietly, Pa tied her to the wagon and then threw her picket rope into the wagon, and as he said, Her picket rope goes with her. Oh, Pa, Laura cried. Do you really mean I can take Fawn with me? That is exactly what I do mean, Pa said. Be a pity if you couldn't have one calf of all the ones you helped raise. Laura could not speak, but she gave Pa a look that thanked him. You think it's safe to tie her behind those horses? Ma asked, and Almanzo assured her that it was safe, and said to Pa that he appreciated the gift of a cow. And then turning to Laura, he said, I'll be over in the morning at 10 o'clock. I'll be ready, Laura promised. But as she stood watching Almanzo drive away, she was unable to realize that tomorrow she would leave home. Try as she would, she could not think of going away tomorrow as meaning that she would not come back, as she had always come back from drives with Almanzo. That afternoon, the black cashmere was carefully pressed, and then Ma made a big white cake. Laura helped her by beating the egg whites on a platter with a fork until Ma said they were stiff enough. My arm is stiffer, Laura ruefully laughed, rubbing her aching right arm. This cake must be just right, Ma insisted. If you can't have a wedding party, at least you shall have a wedding dinner at home and a wedding cake. After supper that night, Laura brought Pa's fiddle to him, and she asked, Please, Pa, make some music. Pa took the fiddle from the box. He was a long time tuning it, and then he must rosin the bow carefully. At last, he poised the bow above the fiddle strings and cleared his throat. What will you have, Laura? Play for Mary first. She always thought of Mary first, Laura answered. And then play all the old tunes, one after another, as long as you can. She sat on the doorstep just inside the door, and Pa and Ma sat looking over the prairie while Pa played Highland Mary. When the sun was going down, he played all the old tunes that Laura had known ever since she could remember. The sun sank from sight, trailing bright banners after it. The colors faded. The land grew shadowy. The first star twinkled. Softly, Carrie and Grace came to lean against Ma. The fiddle sang in the twilight. It sang the songs that Laura knew in the big woods of Wisconsin, and the tunes Pa had played by the campfires all across the plains of Kansas. It repeated the nightingale's song in the moonlight on the banks of the Verdigris River. Then it remembered the days in the dugout on the banks of Plum Creek and the winter evenings in the new house Pa had built there. It sang of the Christmas on Silver Lake and of the springtime after the long, hard winter. Then the fiddle sounded a sweeter note, and Pa's deep voice joined its singing. Once, in the dear dead days beyond recall, when on the world the mists began to fall, out of the dreams that rose in happy throng, low to our hearts, love sang an old sweet song. And in the dusk, where fell the firelight gleam, softly it wove itself into our dream. Just as a song at twilight, when lights are low and the flickering shadows softly come and go, through the heart, though the heart be weary, sad the day and long, still to us at twilight comes love's old song, comes love's old sweet song. Even today we hear of love's song of yore, deep in our hearts it swells forevermore. Footsteps may falter and weary grow the day, still we can hear it at the close of day. So to the end, when life's dim shadows fall, love will be found, the sweetest song of all. Chapter 33, final chapter. Laura was ready when Almanzo came. She was wearing her new black cashmere dress and her sage green poke bonnet with the blue lining and the blue ribbon bow tied under her left ear. The soft black tips of her shoes barely peeped from beneath her flaring skirt as she walked. Ma herself had pinned her square gold brooch with the embedded strawberry at Laura's throat, against the bit of white lace that finished the collar of the dress. There, Ma said. Even if your dress is black, you look perfect. Gruffly, Pa said, you'll do half mine. Carrie brought a fine white handkerchief edged with lace, matching the lace on Laura's collar. I made it for you, she said. It looks nice in your hand against your black dress. Grace just stood there and admired. Then Almanzo came, and they all watched at the door while Laura and Almanzo drove away. Once Laura spoke. Does Reverend Brown know we're coming? Almanzo said, I saw him on my way over. He will not use the word obey. Mrs. Brown opened the sitting room door. Nervously, she said that she would call Mr. Brown and ask them to sit down. She went into the bedroom and closed the door. Laura and Almanzo sat waiting. In the center sitting room, a marble-top table stood on a crocheted rag rug. On the wall was a large colored picture of a woman clinging to a cross planted on a rock, with lightning streaking the sky above her and huge waves dashing high around her. The door of the other bedroom opened, and Ida slipped in and sat down in a chair near the door. She gave Laura a frightened smile, and then she twisted her handkerchief in her lap and looked at it. The kitchen door opened, and a tall, thin young man quietly slipped into a chair. Laura supposed he was Elmer, but she did not see him, for Reverend Brown came from the bedroom, thrusting his arms into his coat sleeves. He settled the coat collar on his neck and asked Laura and Almanzo to rise and stand before him. And so they were married. Reverend Brown and Mrs. Brown and Elmer shook their hands, and Almanzo quietly handed Reverend Brown a folded bill. Reverend Brown unfolded it and at first did not understand that Almanzo meant to give him all of $10. My Reverend only charged $100. So $10 back then was like handing the Reverend $1,000. Ida squeezed Laura's hand and tried to speak, but choked. Quickly, she kissed Laura and slipped a soft little package into her hand and ran out of the room. God, if you guys could see my dog right now. Look at her. So comfortable. Laura and Almanzo came into the sun and wind. He helped her into the buggy and untied the horses. They drove back through town. Dinner was ready when they came back. Ma and the girls moved the table into the sitting room between the open door and the open windows. They had covered it with the best white tablecloth and set it with the prettiest dishes. The silver spoons and the spoon holders shone in the center of the table, and the steel knives and forks were polished until they were bright. As Laura hesitated shyly at the door, Carrie asked, "What's that in your hand?" Laura looked down, and she was holding in her hand with Carrie's handkerchief the soft little package that Ida had given her. She said, "Why, I don't know. Ida gave it to me." She opened the small tissue paper package, unfolded the most beautiful piece of lace she had ever seen. It was a triangular fichu of white silk lace, a pattern of lovely flowers and leaves. "That will last you a lifetime, Laura," Ma said. And Laura knew she would always keep and treasure this lovely little thing that Ida had given her. Then Almanzo came in from stabling the horses, and they all sat down to dinner. It was one of Ma's delicious dinners, but all the food tasted alike to Laura. Even the wedding cake was dry as sawdust in her mouth, for at last she realized she was going away from home, that never she would come back to this home to stay. They all lingered at the table, for they knew that after dinner came the parting, but finally Almanzo said it was time to go. Laura put on her bonnet again and went out to the buggy as Almanzo drove to the door. There were goodbye kisses and good wishes while he stood ready to help her into the buggy, but Pa took her hand. "I'm sorry. I'm remembering my dad." "You'll help her from now on, young man," he said to Almanzo, "but this time I will." Pa helped her into the buggy. Ma brought a basket covered with a white cloth. "Something to help make your supper," she said, and her lips trembled. "Come back soon, Laura." When Almanzo was lifting the reins, Grace came running with Laura's old slat sunbonnet. "You forgot this," she called, holding it up. Almanzo checked the horses while Laura took the sunbonnet. As the horses started again, Grace called anxiously after them, "Remember, Laura, Ma says if you don't keep your sunbonnet on, you'll be as brown as an Indian." So everyone was laughing when Laura and Almanzo drove away. They drove over the road they had traveled so many times across the neck of the big slough, around the corner by Pearson's livery barn, up Main Street, and across the railroad tracks. Then out on the road toward the new house on Almanzo's tree claim. It was a silent drive until almost the end, when for the first time that day, Laura saw the horses. She exclaimed, "Why, you're driving Prince and Lady." I'm sorry, I gotta check something here. Never mentioned the horses. I could have swore I heard Skip and Barnum. Why, you're driving Prince and Lady." "Prince and Lady started this," Almanzo said, "so I thought they'd like to bring us home. And here we are." The tracks of his wagon and buggy wheels made a perfect half-circle drive, curving into the grove of the little sapling trees before the house. There the house sat, and it was neatly finished with siding and smoothly painted a soft gray. Its front door was comfortably in the middle, and two windows gave the whole house a smiling look. On the doorstep lay a large brown shepherd dog that rose and politely wagged to Laura as the buggy stopped. "Hello, Shep," Almanzo said. He helped Laura down and unlocked the door. Go in while I put up the horses, he told her. Just inside the door, she stood and looked. This was the large room. Its walls were neatly plastered a soft white. At its far end stood a drop leaf table, covered with Ma's red check tablecloth. A chair sat primly at either end of it. Beside it was a closed door. In the center of the long wall at Laura's left, a large window let in the southern sunshine. Companionably placed at either side of it, two rocking chairs faced each other. Beside the one nearest Laura stood a small round table, and above it a hanging lamp was suspended from the ceiling. Someone could sit there in the evening and read a paper while the other someone could knit. The whole window beside the front door let still more sunny light in that pleasant room. Two closed doors were in the other long wall. Laura opened the nearest one and saw the bedroom. Her dove in the window quilt was spread upon the wide bed, and her two feather pillows stood plumply at the head of it. At its foot, across the whole length of the partition, was a wide shelf higher than Laura's head, and from its edge a prettily flowered calico curtain hung to the floor. It made a perfect clothes closet. Against the wall, under the front window, stood Laura's trunk. She'd seen this all quickly. Now she took off her poke bonnet and laid it on the shelf. She opened her trunk and took out a calico dress and apron. Taking off her black cashmere dress, she hung it carefully in the curtain closet and then slipped into the blue calico dress and tied on the crisply ruffled pink apron. She went into the front room as Almanzo came into it through the door by the drop leaf table. All ready for work, I see, he said gaily, as he set Ma's basket on the chair near him. Guess I'd better get ready for my work too. He turned at the bedroom door to say, Your Ma told me to open your bundle and spread things about. I'm glad you did, Laura told him. She looked through the door by the table. There was the lean-to. Almanzo's bachelor cook stove was set up there, and pots and frying pan hung on the walls. There was a window and a back door that looked out at the stable beyond some little trees. Laura returned to the front room. She took up Ma's basket and opened the last door. She knew it must be the pantry door, but she stood in surprise and then in delight looking at her pantry. I know the feeling because my husband built me one. Not quite as busy as this one, though. All one wall was covered with shelves and drawers, and a broad shelf was under a large window at the pantry's far end. She took Ma's basket to that work shelf and opened it. There was a loaf of Ma's good bread, a ball of butter, and what had been left of the wedding cake. She left it all on the shelf while she investigated the pantry. One whole long wall was shelved from the ceiling halfway down. The upper shelves were empty, but on the lowest was a glass lamp, Almanzo's bachelor dishes, and 2 pans of milk with empty pans near. At the end, where this shelf was above the window shelf in the corner stood a row of cans of spices. Beneath this shelf were many drawers of different sizes. Directly below the spices and above the window shelf were 2 rather narrow drawers. Laura found that one was almost full of white sugar and the other full of brown sugar. How handy. Yeah, for ants and mice. Next, a deep drawer was full of flour, and smaller ones held graham flour and cornmeal. You could stand at the window shelf and mix up anything without stirring a step. Outside the window was the great blue sky and the leafy little trees. Another deep drawer was filled with towels and tea towels. Another held 2 tablecloths and some napkins. A shallow one held knives and forks and spoons. Beneath all these drawers was a space for a tall stoneware churn and dasher, an empty space for other things as they should come. In a wide drawer of the bottom row was only a crust of bread and a half a pie. Here Laura put Ma's loaf of bread and the wedding cake. She cut a piece from the ball of butter, put it on a small plate, and placed it beside the bread. Then she pushed the drawer shut. By the iron ring fastened in the pantry floor, she knew there was a trap door. I'd trip over that iron ring every time. She straightened the ring up and pulled. The trap door rose and rested against the pantry wall opposite the shelves. There, beneath where it had been, the cellar stairs went down. Carefully covering the ball of butter, Laura carried it down the stairs into the cool, dark cellar and set it on a hanging shelf that swung from the ceiling. She heard steps overhead, and as she came up the cellar stairs, she heard Almanzo calling her name. "I thought you were lost in this great big house," he said. "I was putting the butter down the cellar so it would keep cool," said Laura. "Like your pantry?" he asked her, and she thought how many hours he must have worked to put all those shelves and to make and fit all those many drawers. "Yes," she said. "Then let's go look at Lady's big little colt. I want you to see the horses in their stalls and the place I have fixed for your cow. She's picketed out to grass now, just out of reach of the young trees." Almanzo led the way through the lean-to and outdoors. They explored the long stable and the yard beyond it. Almanzo showed her the new haystacks on the north to shelter the yard and stable when the winter winds came. Laura petted the horses and the colt, and Shep followed close at their heels. They looked at the little green maples and box elders and willows and cottonwoods. Why no fruit trees? Quickly the afternoon was gone. It was time for chores and supper. "Don't build a fire," Almanzo told her. "Set out the bread and butter your mother gave us. I'll milk Fawn and we'll have bread and new milk for supper." "And cake," Laura reminded him. When they had eaten their supper and washed the few dishes, they sat on the front doorstep as evening came. They heard Prince blow out his breath as he lay down on his bed of clean hay inside the stable. They saw the dim bulk of Fawn on the grass where she lay chewing her cud and resting. Shep lay at their feet. Already he was half of Laura's dog. Laura's heart was full of happiness. She knew she need never be homesick for the old home. It was so near that she could go to it whenever she wished, while she and Almanzo made the new home in their own little house. All this was theirs, their own horses, their own cow, their own claim. Many leaves of their little trees rustled softly in the gentle breeze. Twilight faded as little stars went out and the moon rose and floated upward. Its silvery light flooded the sky and the prairie. The winds that had blown whispering over the grasses all the summer day now lay sleeping, and quietness brooded over the moon-drenched land. "It's a wonderful night," Almanzo said. "It's a beautiful world," Laura answered. And in memory, she heard the voice of Pa's fiddle in the echo of the song, "Golden years are passing by." These happy golden years. Thank you so ever much for joining me for the live readings of these happy golden years. The next reading will be the first 4 years, which isn't laid out exactly the same as this writing, but it was found after Laura's death, I guess, and her daughter published it, I believe. So, I love you guys. I got to shut down, make Howie's lunch, and then head to bed. I love you. Take care. God bless, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks.